Hello and welcome to ESG Unearthed, a collaboration between Future of Mining 365 and Sympact Advisory. My name is Liz Freele, Managing Partner at Sympact, an ESG think tank and consultancy serving the mining industry and beyond. Joining me today, I have Sabrina Dias, CEO of SOOP Strategies and co-author of a fantastically practical book called Integrating Sustainability into Major Projects, which we'll be digging into today. Welcome, Sabrina.
Hi, Liz. Nice to see you, and thank you for having me.
Yeah, pleasure to have you. I'm super excited to chat to you today because I know this book is chock full of best practices and tools for project teams who are really trying to figure out the how when it comes to putting ESG into practice. So maybe let's start with what spurred you to write it.
Sure. What spurred me to write it with my co-author is I wanted to write something that I would have found useful in the field. So when I started out in the mining sector in 2001, sustainable development really just referred to materials management, life cycle analysis. And when I got out into the field at site, I mean, there was just no tools for how to manage your community relations, your social impacts, your environmental integrated impacts with social. So yeah, I created on paper what would be useful to a future me in the field.
Awesome. Cool. I admit I haven't read it yet, but I will definitely.
Great read.
Yeah. So I guess it's full of your experiences as well as another really interesting part. So as an engineer in the industry, you have worked on a lot of projects throughout your career in consulting and in-house roles, of course, as CEO of SOOP Strategies as well. Sustainability as a field has been evolving an awful lot during that time. So I'm curious, maybe if you share a little bit about your experiences, like what are some of the main challenges or struggles that you see companies experiencing in really integrating sustainability into a major project? Do you have some tips, some solutions other than reading your book, of course?
Great question. I think one of the main challenges is same as it was 20 years ago, and it's still happening today, is there's not a lot of overlap between the different functions. So sustainable development or sustainability is still a siloed function in most organizations. And that function has the sole responsibility of doing sustainability, when sustainability really needs to be integrated across the function. So it's everyone's responsibility. You know, it's the health and safety team, it's the environment team, it's HR, it's legal, it's investor relations. And they only seem to come together once during the year, during reporting season, and that's just to feed the sustainability person data. But if you want to truly be mining company that is operating with sustainability, it needs to be integrated. It needs to have a language across all functions. So I think that's one of the main challenges. Still today, although I will say with the companies that we're working with, there is a lot of integrations, probably because for the smaller companies, it's easier. You know, when you have a smaller company with a leadership team of say 8 to 10, everybody does a few things. And so there's more understanding and I think more embracing of sustainability across the different areas of the company.
So cohesive culture for sure.
Yeah.
What about general pitfalls that you see folks falling into? You know, we've seen the term ESG become super trendy. Everyone wants to do sustainability now. Are there some common pitfalls that you would warn folks about?
That one exactly, doing sustainability.
Yeah, that's why I said it.
Sustainability or ESG is not a problem to solve. It's a way of operating. It's a way of doing business. And I think that lack of understanding or awareness leads to the pitfalls of, oh, we need a policy, quick, let's just draw one up. We need an Indigenous people's policy. So let's just write one up and that should be fine. That's not it. To develop
it on a shelf.
Right. Yeah, it just becomes wallpaper, if anything. And what we've been doing with our clients in building strategy for sustainability is really getting the leadership team involved. I think that's such an opportunity to leverage, is once the leadership comes in at the beginning of building sustainability strategy, and I mean like the executive team and the board, bringing them in and having those voices at the table of identifying, well, why do we need an Indigenous peoples policies? What is it going to do for us and for our stakeholders and for the Indigenous peoples or the communities that we're operating near? That builds that awareness, that buy-in, and it helps to form that culture of sustainability. Yeah, and sorry, what was the original question?
About some of the pitfalls. Like one of the ones I wonder about is we're seeing this immense proliferation of data because the call for ESG has really originated in the finance world, which is very data oriented. So maybe you want to speak a little bit to that, because I know there's some opinions there.
Yeah, we've talked before about this. So it's great that, you know, it started as sustainability or sustainable development in the 80s and 90s. It became sustainability, it became corporate social responsibility, corporate responsibility. And in 2019, I would say, was the year that ESG was really pushed to the front of that vernacular. The finance sector, they love acronyms and data. And so they were looking for non-financial data, and they have been. And so the call just became very loud in 2019 and through 2020 with the pandemic. That really underscored the need for understanding your sustainability impacts or your sustainability management and what you're missing. The pitfall, though, is that with this drive and call for data, particularly from the capital markets, from investors, there's been this proliferation of, as you said, you know, data tools, the proliferation of data tools to capture ESG data. And that's a good thing. But the problem is it's not all just about any and all data. So it's almost like a hamster spinning wheels of saying, okay, we just need all the ESG data that we can get to feed to the investors. Well, the investors need to know the data that you're focused on, and what you're focused on should be your sustainability risks and opportunities, so to speak, right? Of what you really, what your company is managing, what are their biggest risks, their non-financial risks, how are they going to contribute to the local communities or contribute to the industry. Those focus points need to have data behind them. But if you just go through a data tool and fill it all up with numbers, it's almost diluting the effort. And then it's hard for stakeholders like investors to say, okay, they've got all this data, but what are they focused on? And so using,
like the data is an end in itself. The reporting on the data is an end versus a means, I guess.
I think, yeah. I mean, when we do reporting for our clients, we see it as part of the overall strategic development. Remember that old term, continuous improvement? We still use it today. But I mean, the reporting process and collecting and analyzing your ESG data comprehensively and holistically, all ESG of it once a year, is a great way to gauge your progress. Is a great way to look at it and say, are our goals still valid? You know, we just went through a pandemic. Maybe this shouldn't be our goal right now. Maybe we need to shift focus. So that's where data comes in handy. Where people fall down, I think, is where they're just reporting for the sake of reporting, where they're putting up data without any communication of the pathways that companies are taking to achieve their goals and how the data fits in and helps them to measure their progress against goals. So yeah, that's what I fear, that with this demand of ESG data, a huge demand, which is great from the finance sector, it's creating all these tools, and it's just data for the sake of data. You can't have data without strategy. It's no point.
Yeah, totally. So with all this evolution that we've been seeing in the ESG and sustainability integration landscape, what are you most excited about right now?
It's hard to get excited when you've been in this business for 20 years and you're like been screaming sustainability. However, it really is exciting right now. Legitimately, I could say that when a company says to me, you know, we want to be the best sustainable mining company. We want to be the best. And for them, the best doesn't just mean you know, financials. It actually means how they treat their local communities, how they contribute to economic development, They're looking at the broader global scheme of climate change and where can they fit in their mining plan. So the best isn't the traditional best of stock performance anymore. It's about that non-financial performance and contribution to society and environment, which I find really exciting. I feel like it's a shift in paradigm.
Yeah, the redefining of best.
Yeah.
Cool. What else?
What else am I excited about?
Yeah.
The juniors. I am so excited about the juniors that I've been speaking with and working with, the smaller companies who see sustainability as a leverage, as a point, as an opportunity to attract new investors, to attract the impact investor, to they're gunning for strong financials, but they know that the ESG is as important. So I'm really excited about this awareness and the CEOs that we work with now that are just so enlightened. And it's really great. I feel like I'm not banging my head against the wall anymore, like I was 15 or 20 years ago.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Honestly, it's a wonderful time to be working in sustainability.
It's inspiring, as a consultant. It's so inspiring to come off of a call and be like, oh my God, they really want to bring to fruition. It's great. It's really great.
Yeah, they take real action. What about on the flip side? What do you think we're still not getting right that you'd really like to see change in the industry?
Good question. Engagement of board and leadership. For some reason, in a lot of contexts, boards are very hands-off. And engaging board in the visioning of sustainability and how it's going to be integrated into the company. And that's part of setting culture and tone too. So I think that's something that's lacking. We're moving though, like that at least, what I'm seeing on a day-to-day basis is that boards are starting to get more involved. We're doing training of boards and helping elevate their ESG fluency.
Yeah.
Helping, getting them literally training for boards on a company-to-company basis, which is great, but I think there's still a long way to go. What else are we not getting right? Reporting. It is still just a book report for many people, for many companies. And it's a snapshot in time of your progress towards your ESG goals. It's a snapshot of the reassessment of your ESG goals. It's an opportunity to communicate practically and pragmatically what you are doing and why. The why needs to be there in that report of why these ESG priorities are important to your company. So I think that practical approach to reporting and using it as a strategy as part of the overall strategy is still lacking in many places. So that's something we're trying to redirect at SOOP Strategies. But it's getting there. I think the disclosures like SASB and demands from SASB, TCFD is helping.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Awesome. Super insightful. Thanks so much for joining me today. Any last thoughts, comments, advice that you'd like to share with the audience?
Yeah, if I can say that mining is such a fantastic industry, and I know that there's still an understanding or a perception out there that mining is bad and you're digging a hole and you're pulling out things from the earth that cannot be replaced, and by definition it's not sustainable. But mining can be done sustainably, and I've always thought from the very beginning that mining can be the vehicle for sustainable development in areas where it's needed. It's like a rapid industrialization, but we can do it with care. We can do it with strategy to carefully bring carefully bring local communities out of poverty. I spent a lot of years in Africa, and it brings hope. So I think that's something that I'm trying to change, and also the perception of women in mining. I try and speak at schools or wherever I can to just inspire more women into the industry, because we really need that diversity. of thought, diversity of analysis, of different perspectives of looking at things. And sustainability will, I think, soar if we get more diversity, women, BIPOC, Black, Indigenous people of color in the industry. I think that's something we're just not getting right, and I feel like it's a hard thing to do, but I think it's important. I think we can.
I think we can too, and I'm glad you brought that up.
Okay.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sabrina.